Welcome to Talking Out with Marla P. I'm Marla, of course. So I want my guests to realize this is Miss Toni LaShaun Wortherly. So Toni, I want to officially introduce you. Miss Toni is a dynamic, multi-talented artist from Jacksonville, Florida, Duval. I have a lot of family there. As a
Yes.
singer, songwriter, author, speaker, and educator, her life revolves around a deep connection with Jesus Christ. Toni uses her music, writing, and speaking to spread hope and encouragement, especially to girls and women dealing with mental health, singleness, and life after divorce. She passionately shares Jesus' love with humility and integrity. A woman of remarkable faith and a Christian. A woman who wears many hats. How do you do it?
By the grace of God. Like not to get all churchy on people, but
That's okay. That's okay.
by the grace of God, like if it was not for the Lord on my side, as the song goes, I
Yes.
don't know where I would be. He has given me a lot of talent and he's given me a lot of gifts in different areas. And I just feel like when God gives you a gift, it's not for you, it's for you to share it out with other people. So
Absolutely.
just try to
Absolutely.
do my best to do that.
Awesome. Awesome. And I know what's, you know, dear to your heart, you spoke on that you would like to talk about battling anxiety and navigating through singleness. Would you like to start off with battling anxiety?
Absolutely. I can start anywhere.
Awesome. Awesome. So I know that there are different variations of anxiety disorders, right?
Yes.
Which one would you like to speak on?
So I was diagnosed when I was 24 with generalized anxiety disorder.
Okay.
Like there's different anxiety disorders, there's social anxiety disorders, there's different disorders dealing with anxiety. Generalized anxiety disorder, essentially what happens is, to put it in kind of plain terms, because I'm not an expert, I'm a person who has done this battle for a very long time, but I'm not a doctor. So to put it in layman's terms, we're all familiar with getting nervous, feeling anxious. It's a natural emotion for us to have.
Absolutely.
Anytime you're in a situation where it may be a little uncomfortable, you're unsure of the outcome, you're going to be anxious, you're going to be nervous. It could be finances, it can be family, it can be relationships, it can be school, your work, whatever it is.
Right.
People tend to feel anxiety. Where anxiety disorders differ is in the intensity and the duration of that anxiety, right? So
Mm,
for just regular, average, everyday anxiety, like I'm a teacher, so I'll use an example. My students, they have
okay.
a test coming up. They know they have a test coming up. They may or may not have studied. So they may get a little anxious about how they're going to do on that test.
Right.
For a person that has an anxiety disorder, everything is riding on that test.
I see.
And if they don't pass that test, then they're not going to get into the school that they want to. And if they don't get into the school that they want to, then they're not going to get the career that they want to. And if they don't get the career that they want to, then they don't even know why they're living life right now.
Understand.
So it kind of takes you ruminate on things, you ponder them over, and it snowballs into catastrophe.
Right.
It can start off as a small, regular, everyday thing that just about anybody would deal with. But in your mind takes it for whatever psychological, physiological, metaphysical reasons your
Right.
brain chooses to take it and make it
Absolutely.
into this catastrophic ending. And what that does is it puts more pressure on you.
Mhm.
You can have physical symptoms like illness, or you can become like paralyzed in your fear and your anxiety and unable to move forward.
Right.
I remember when I was in 12th grade, I was taking calculus, and for like most of my calculus tests, I didn't study. I just paid attention in class, did my work, took the test, passed the test, usually with an A or a B. There was one
Awesome.
particular unit we were doing, and I was like, I'm not getting this off the bat like I normally do. So I was studying a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, trying to like really, really prepare. What I
Right.
did though was I built up with all that studying so much anxiety in myself
Mm.
that when I got to the test, I looked at the test and everything that I had studied for weeks left my brain.
Wow.
And all I could think about was how harmful it was going to be to my future. What
Yes.
was happening at that test.
Yes.
And I ended up getting a 39 on that test. And I had gotten straight A's in calculus up to that
Oh my goodness.
for the quarters. So
Yes.
fortunately, I had a teacher who understood that that was not my norm. And she
Yes.
asked me what happened. And I told her, I was like, I studied for like the first time in a long time. I studied really, really hard. And she understood and she let me redo the test. But that's just like a practical example of what anxiety can
Mhm.
do to a person.
Right. Right.
And when you have an anxiety disorder, like regular anxiety, like, yes, you're probably not going to be happy with the 39 on the test, but you're not going to think that your whole entire life and career is over, which at the time when I was 17, I was trying to be an attorney. So I needed to get into the best schools and so I could get into law school and had all this stuff mapped out. And I could just see all of it crumbling
Yeah.
with that one test.
Yes. Yes.
So that's the difference is like the intensity, like how far your brain takes it and
Mhm.
then how long it lasts. Because normally, if we're nervous about something,
Mhm.
keeping with the test example, you're nervous about the test, you take the test, you might be a little bit nervous right after it. Once you get your grade back, it's done. Like it's
Right.
done. You took it, you got your grade, you got what you got, you plan forward for the future. Anxiety disorders keep you there.
Right. Right. So is there anything you can do prior, like that can help you control?
I've been on this journey I'm 46 years old now. Um,
Okay.
my like earliest memories are about things that made me anxious. Like the memories that I can think of from when I was little are about
Mhm.
things that made me anxious, like being with somebody who wasn't my mom or being in a storm and thinking the house is going to cave in. Like this has been my life, my whole life. It
Right.
wasn't until about when was September? About 9 months ago.
Mhm.
9 months ago that I started some intensive therapy
Okay.
that got me over the edge. I've been
Good.
in periods of time in my life where when I was first diagnosed, I did go on medication
Mhm.
and do cognitive behavioral therapy while I was on medication, and
Okay.
that helped. And then generally from there, as long as there wasn't some huge event in my life that was tragic or catastrophic, then I was fine. So I
Right.
had certain periods of my life where I had catastrophes happen in my life, and
Mhm.
that threw me off.
Yeah.
This last time, I didn't think there was any catastrophe that had necessarily happened. I found out in therapy that there were. I just had stuffed all of my feelings down and not dealt with them.
Right.
So that leads to the answer to your question. What
Yes.
can
Yeah.
you do to stop the anxiety before it starts? Um,
Mhm.
I give 3 simple steps that I learned out of therapy. They
Oh,
weren't necessarily put to me in these 3 steps, but I like to summarize things so people can understand them. And
right.
I love alliteration as a writer and a songwriter. I like alliteration. I like to make things that people can remember. So, step one, which is a thing that I absolutely refused to do because it terrified me,
Oh,
is to listen to your anxiety. I
good
spent
point.
years and years and years of my life
Mhm.
trying to push my anxiety down, trying to ignore it, trying to drown it out by being active, by watching TV, being on social media, like doing anything I could to not be alone with my thoughts.
Right.
I learned in therapy that I actually do need to listen to my anxiety because what I found out when I was telling my therapist out loud the things that were going through my head, I realized how ridiculous the things are that my anxiety comes up with. Like the
Mhm.
snowball that it goes to and the catastrophes that it comes up with. I
Right.
realized over my lifetime, none of those things that have popped into my brain have ever actually happened.
Right. But it just
My
seemed
anxiety's been lying to me like this whole time. Like all these bad things are gonna happen. And none of them are ever gonna happen. And because I wasn't listening to my anxiety, I was ignoring it. I never really had the chance to actually analyze the fact that it was lying to me a lot of times.
right. Right.
Okay. So the second step is learn from your anxiety. Okay.
Good.
So our feelings
Hmm.
are natural and we're allowed to have our feelings and we're allowed to feel our feelings, but our feelings are not our identity. Our feelings are indicators.
Correct.
Our feelings are indicators of other things that are going on in our life. So at that point, when I was in therapy and I was listening to those thoughts, it was like, okay, where are these thoughts coming from? The thoughts, what I learned from my anxiety is that the thoughts that I was having that were throwing me off and making me miserable and making me an insomniac and
Mhm.
all kinds of fun things that were going on were
Yes.
stemming from grief that I had not dealt with. And so it can be different for everybody, like why they're feeling that anxiety. But if you don't take the time to listen to it, you can't learn from it. Like, what is it that you're really afraid of? Because anxiety stems from fear,
That's
and
true.
generally a fear that is in the future, something that's going to happen later on
Mhm.
that you're like, I can't control any of this and it's going to go haywire, right? So
Right.
you have to learn, you have to actually listen and then learn what it is that you're actually dealing with. Why is your anxiety so heightened
That's true.
about that particular area? For me, it was having several, I can't even count how many people died that I was close to between February of 2020 and September of 2021. Like
Wow.
a lot of people, not to mention all of the death that was going on around in my world because of the pandemic.
Right.
So what happened was because none of those people, because I wasn't like secondary to any of those people, meaning like for the first person was my grandfather, right? I'm his grandchild, right? My
Mhm.
mom and her siblings are his children.
Right.
Like I was not like the next person in line to him, even though we were very, very close and he was very, very dear to me. But I didn't feel like my grief was as important as my mom and my aunts and my uncles,
Okay.
right? My friend's husband who was like an uncle to me, my mom's best friend who was like an aunt to me, right? That I felt like my grief was secondary to their actual family,
Ah,
right? So I didn't feel like I had the right to be sad.
I get it.
And so I kind of stuffed all of that
Mhm.
down. And
Mhm.
then on top of that, I was at kind of a weird point in my life. I'm not sure what your age is, but
I'm 46.
okay, we're the same age. Okay. So let's talk about it.
Yes. Okay. I'm happy to be
We're
46.
going through some changes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Life is coming at you fast. You're going through changes. You
Twist.
know, you've got more life behind you than ahead of you, maybe at this
Right.
point.
Right.
And I really started to think like, there's a bunch of dreams that I had for my life. Are they dead? Are they delayed?
Mhm.
Are they denied? Like, am I ever gonna see these things come to pass? For example, being a wife, being a mom,
Right.
right? But I felt like it was ungrateful for me to feel sad about that and to grieve that the dream that I saw, the Toni that I saw at 46 was very different than the Toni that exists at 46.
See.
And I remember in therapy one day, I was like, this is the life that I wanted to have and I don't have it. And he was like, what are you doing about it? And I was like, I'm just living the life that I have. Like, what else can I do about it? And he's like, why don't you allow yourself to grieve that and get sad about it? And I was like, I shouldn't be sad. I have a great life. I'm able to provide for myself. I'm able to take care of myself. I'm relatively healthy. I'm not allowed to be sad. And he was like, why? I didn't have an answer for that. I
Right.
didn't have an answer for why I wasn't allowed to be sad and I wasn't allowed to grieve these things. And that moment right there was like the turning point
Absolutely.
for my life, because a lot of my anxiety throughout my life has come from trying to live up to an expectation that I thought people had of me, that I think God has of me, that's not necessarily actually there.
It's true.
And I was putting more burdens on myself
Mhm.
than were ever meant for me to bear, and that I never would have been able to bear, right?
Mhm.
So, for anybody that's dealing with anxiety, what burdens are you putting on yourself that you were never meant to bear? Or if you were meant to bear them, you were never meant to bear alone,
It's a good
right?
point. That's a
So
good
that is what I learned from listening to my anxiety. Like I had this whole, literally hole,
Mhm.
this hole that had built up
Mhm.
because of grief and sadness, this void. And I just kept refusing to acknowledge it. And instead of grief hitting me in waves like it does for normal people, it hit me like a tsunami. And
Wow.
my life was like out of control.
Right. Right. Well, do you agree that like anxiety can be crippling?
Oh, 100%.
Mhm.
Anxiety can cause you to be paralyzed,
Oh, yeah.
like to not want to move forward. To
Mhm.
not, there was a long time I did not want to leave my house. I remember when the pandemic was going on, my mom had to trick me to get
Really?
the house. She had to, she was like, okay, this has gone on for long enough. You must leave the house now. Like, but she didn't put it that way. And I can't even remember what she said to me to the, but we have this tradition that like when I'm on a break in school or when I'm not, she and I will like go out and go shopping together just to like hang out and have some bonding time. And
Mhm.
I think that like it was something like that, or going to get our nails done or something. She just like, but in the aftermath of it, she was like, I was starting to like get scared that you were like never gonna leave the house again. Cause I was terrified of what would happen. You know, I live alone,
Mhm.
of what would happen if I got COVID. We had a COVID outbreak at my school and we all had to get tested. And I was terrified of those results because I was like, I'm going to be in my house. It's just me and my cat. Like, I'm going to be stuck here. I'm not going to be able to be around my family. I'm not going to be able to be active in church. I'm not going to be able to do all the things that keep me grounded. I'm going
Mhm.
to be stuck in my house alone with my thoughts all day long. That is a dangerous place to be. Like, so it 100% can keep you, that paralysis by analysis is what I call it.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I get stuck in like a thought cycle,
Mhm.
and it's hard to break free from that. And generally the thought cycle is thinking of every single thing that can possibly go wrong. It's
Absolutely.
never like a happy thought cycle of, this is
Yeah.
really gonna work out well for me, right?
We wish
At
would be
least in the
good, but
past it wasn't. Now
right.
I've learned like the third step to things after listening and learning from anxiety is to limit your anxiety,
Mhm.
things that you can do. And one of the things that I learned in therapy was a grounding technique of just being here right now.
Mhm.
Sometimes it takes a little bit more effort to get there, but in some moments, I just say to myself, come back to now. Like if I feel that my mind is going too far in the future, I just say, come back to now, come back to right now. Where are we right now?
There you
Uh,
go.
if you are with someone who's having like a panic attack or an anxiety attack, one of my favorite grounding activities is the five senses one. Like, tell me five things you can see. And I will do it on myself and be like, look around the room. Five things I can see. What's four things you hear? What are three things you can reach out and touch right now? What is two things that you smell right now? What is one thing you can taste right now? Like, and that helps you to come back into the moment. Because, like I said before, anxiety is I'm hanging out in the future and
Mhm.
I'm hanging out there in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting stuck there and I have a hard time coming back. The other thing that I do, and this pertains to not only anxiety, but also as a single woman, is gratitude exercises
Yes. Yes.
and remembering and pointing out all of the things that I am grateful for in this moment.
There you go. Mm-hmm.
And that usually brings me out, especially when I can be a whiny, complainy baby. That is, I have to repent about that all the time. I'm very much like a Israelites in the wilderness murmurer. Um, and I'm like, Lord, please forgive me. He's like, I know. Okay, let me come back. God, grateful. I am grateful.
That's
Like,
right. Right.
and just start with the basics. Something's going on in my job that I'm murmuring and complaining about. Lord, I'm grateful I have a job.
There you go.
I'm
There you
grateful I have a career, a
go.
meaningful career where I can impact young lives, like bring it back. If there
Let's
is like
focus on the
something
positive.
going on with my health, I'm thankful for the parts of my health that are working. I'm thankful that I can breathe. I'm thankful. I have a song called 100,000 Heartbeats. I'm thankful for every single one of them.
There you go.
100,000 heartbeats every single day. I'm thankful for the 20,000 breaths that I breathe every single day. Like, gratitude brings you back.
That's true. That's true. And you mentioned that you have a therapist, right? Which I'm so
I,
glad to hear
I do.
because so many people think having a therapist is a bad thing.
Mhm.
So, what do you think the stigma that's tied to mental illness? Like, why do you think people don't want to go to a therapist?
There's a lot of reasons. I know as a Christian,
Hmm.
we take a deep breath and make sure I say the correct words. As
Hmm.
a Christian, for me personally, right?
Right.
In Philippians 4:6, it says, be anxious for nothing.
There you go.
That verse was so hard for me for my whole life
Hmm.
because it meant that every single day, and for a lot of moments in every single day, to me, the way I interpreted that verse was I was letting God down. I didn't have enough faith. I
Hmm.
wasn't praying enough. I wasn't believing enough. I was doubting too much because it said, be anxious for nothing. I'm not supposed to worry about anything. I'm not supposed to have any cares. I'm not supposed to have any concerns. That's how I interpreted that verse. And I think that's how a lot of people
That's
interpret
true.
that verse.
It's true.
I learned as you go on in the verse, it says, be anxious for nothing, but in everything with prayer and thanksgiving, make your requests known to God. So it's not that we're not going to have cares or concerns,
Hmm.
but God wants us to bring the cares and concerns to Him.
That's correct.
Okay.
Hmm.
Now, mental issues, mental illnesses, mental health issues, you can't see them,
It's true.
right?
So,
So I feel like it's hard for people on the outside to
mhm.
understand a thing that they cannot see or that they have not seen affect someone that they love.
Right.
If someone has a cold, we can see they have runny nose and red eyes and they're coughing and they're sneezing. If somebody broke their leg, we can see that they have a limp, they're in a cast, whatever the case may be. Even with like diseases, if somebody's going through cancer and they're going through treatments, we can see that they're losing weight, they're losing their hair. Like, we can see a physical manifestation that
Right.
there is a physical issue going on with them, right?
Mhm.
I don't know about you. I have never heard anyone tell someone that has a cold or the flu, maybe you're not praying hard enough. I have never heard anyone say to someone who has broken their leg, if you will just believe harder, you
Right.
will be healed. I've never heard anyone tell a cancer patient, you know, you probably shouldn't go see a doctor or do any of the treatments that they're recommending.
Right.
But we do that with mental illness,
Which
and we
brought me to
do
my
that
question.
with
Mhm.
mental health issues
Exactly. It's so important.
because there is this stigma.
Mhm.
It's like, I go back to like Job,
Mhm.
when Job was going through all that suffering, because
Yes.
his friends couldn't figure out why he was suffering, they like started making up reasons,
Mhm.
or the blind man that Jesus healed, like because people couldn't figure out why he was blind, they were like, oh, he must have sinned, his parents must have sinned. We do the same thing with mental illness. It's like, oh, you must have a demon, or you must not be strong enough as a Christian, or you must not. My brain is wired differently.
That's
That's
right.
all it is.
Yes. Yes.
My brain is wired differently. And I wish that I had learned sooner
Mhm.
how to more properly deal with it.
Right.
But I'm grateful that I know now and
Mhm.
that I have more tools now. But when I was diagnosed at 24 and they said you need to go on medication, I said okay, and I continued with my therapy and my medication, but I
Mhm.
told one person
Okay.
because I didn't want anyone to know
Right.
that I was on medication for a mental health issue
And why was that?
because I was terrified
Yeah.
of what people would think of me.
Right.
Me,
Mhm.
not this girl who has all the things together and all her ducks in a row. Not
Mhm.
me, not the girl, not the Jesus girl, the girl who loves Jesus, who goes to church, who prays, who sings, not her. She can't possibly be dealing with that,
I see. Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But we have to understand we live in corruptible bodies in a fallen and corrupt world. And Jesus did not promise sunshine and roses on this side of heaven. He said, in this world,
Mhm.
you will have trouble. And so we do have trouble and we do have struggles.
Absolutely.
And it's sad that those troubles or struggles are seen as a sign of how strong or how weak your faith is, because that is absolutely untrue. And I don't know where that lie started. Well, I do know where it started. That's a lie that the enemy gives us,
Mhm.
you know, to keep people from getting help. This is why you have situations where you have people that everybody's like, oh my gosh, I thought that person had it all together. And then the next thing you know, they have died by suicide.
That's right. That's right. And you see that a lot within the Black community, right? Where and you really need, well, some people will say, well, she can take it all. She's strong. She can do it all. She doesn't need no one to check on her. But you have to check on your strong friends. They go through too, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
And and just like how you said, mental health for some doesn't have a look. Like I can smile and be dying on the inside, you know?
I'm really good at putting on a mask
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for a period of time.
Right. Right.
And then I'm just like, after that, I'm like, you get what you get. Like, my face is my worst enemy because you are going to see all of my feelings on my face, but I can wear a mask for a period of time. And I can,
Okay.
because I don't like making other people feel uncomfortable and I don't like making other people feel burdened and I don't want to put my stuff on other people.
I
And
understand.
honestly, we've got to, and that's why therapy is important, right? Because if
Very
you like
important.
me in that, like that's literally what therapists get paid to do. They
That's
get
right.
paid to listen to you. They get paid for you to put your burdens there. But I will say this. I always say I believe in Jesus
There
and
you go. Exactly. And some
because
people feel like,
therapy alone isn't going to do it.
that's right. That's right. You need both.
You need both. And you need to go
Absolutely.
to Jesus first. And that is
Hmm.
what I did. In my past, when I had therapists, I really didn't pray about it. I was just like, I need to go to therapy, yada yada. I went to therapy. Like
Hmm.
I need to talk to somebody. I did that. My doctor diagnosed me. He sent me to a psychotherapist. I talked to her. She prescribed me medication. I talked to my doctor a little bit, but I hadn't really prayed about what was going on. This time I was like, Lord, I don't even know why this is happening or where
Hmm.
this is coming from. Like I thought all of the symptoms that came on that led me to seek therapy started right after I released my EP. So I thought I was down here living my best life. Like I'm finally like releasing music and actually letting people hear like my songs, and I'm having fun promoting the music and singing and doing all these things. And I was in like a musical, and just like I thought I was living my best life. So I was like, Lord, I don't know where this is coming from. Like, what is going on? But I know I need help.
Right.
I don't trust anybody
Mm-hmm.
because my first therapist, who was really good, was I mean that was like 20 something years ago, so I have no contact with him. And I was like, Lord, I need you to point me in the direction of someone who is going to be able to help me. Like, you know me and you know how my mind works. You also know that I am really manipulative and I try to get people to do things the way that I want them to do them.
That's
And
right.
I need someone who is going to push back.
Mm-hmm.
And I need someone who's going to be blunt, and I need someone who's not going to be afraid to hurt my feelings.
Right.
That is exactly who I got.
Oh my goodness. But I'm glad that, that you have a therapist, and I have one because, you may not know, but I lost my mom in 2022 and we were very, very close. And I was a primary caretaker. And when I tell you, grief for me was like an emotional roller coaster. And I actually got me a therapist. And one of the things I've learned is that I have to make sure that I feel every emotion. Some days I'm happy, some days I'm sad. I mean, it's just an emotional roller coaster. Then you have triggers. So I would encourage everyone to get a therapist. Yes, I believe in God, but God also created therapists.
Right. It's like, if we believe that God created doctors and
Right.
dentists
Mm-hmm.
and Tylenol, I don't know, like, Tamiflu and chemotherapy. Like, if we believe that God allowed those things to exist to help us and to keep us healthy, why is it so hard to believe that God also ordained therapists and that he allowed for there to be medicines that can help
Mm-hmm.
regulate our chemical, imbalances that happen in our brain?
Absolutely.
Why
Absolutely.
is that so hard to believe? God cares about all of us. He doesn't just care about our physical pain.
Right.
Sometimes people intertwine um, mental, emotional issues with spiritual.
Yes.
They're not one and the same.
That's right.
They're
That's right.
not one and the same, because those mental emotional issues can stem from something that is physiological.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree.
So, yeah.
I
So
definitely
we
agree.
have to, this is why I speak out, because we have to get rid of that stigma. There's too many people suffering in silence.
Yes.
The Black community and the trans
Yes.
community. There's too many people suffering in silence because they are afraid that they're letting God down. Let me tell you right now, you are not letting God down.
Right.
First of all, nothing surprises him, and he knows everything there could be to know about you. He knows more about you than you even know about you.
There you go.
All he asks that you accept his son as Savior,
Mm-hmm.
and that you submit your life to him, and
That's
you come to him with your cares. I said it in my devotional. He thought so much about us coming to him with his cares that he said it twice in the Old Testament and the New Testament. He said it in Psalms. He said it in Peter. Cast all your cares on me,
yes.
all of them, the
That's
big
right.
ones, the small ones,
Mm-hmm.
all of them.
That's right.
There's nothing, people are, I often say there's nothing too hard for God.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing impossible for God. We always think about, like, I can only go to God with like these great big things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing too small for God either.
That's
And
right.
there's nothing too easy for God. Like God's not just up there like, you know what? It's your turn to handle it. I'm tired of handling things for you. Like,
Right.
like, like
Yeah.
I don't want to hear from you about that. Wait until you have something that's a little more pressing, and then go to, that's not what he's doing. He wants it all.
That's
He
so
wants
true.
us to spend time with him,
Mhm.
to know him, and like there's no one, like I love my mama and my daddy and my family, and I love my future husband. I don't even know him yet, but there is nobody on this earth that is going to love you the way God loves you,
That's so true.
knowing everything that he
Unconditional love.
about you, unconditional,
It
forgiving,
falls in all. Okay.
all of it, the faults, the flaws, the failures, the scars,
That's
all
right.
of it. He loves it all, every part of you.
That's
And
right.
the closer and closer you get to him, the easier those things become to deal with.
Right.
I'm not saying that any of it is easy. Life on this side of heaven is not easy. Let me just I say easier. It's easier to deal with.
Right.
It's not as like, it doesn't feel as life threatening, as life changing. You know, you're still going to have obstacles.
Absolutely.
You're still going to have things go on in your life that are not what you want to happen. But when you know that God is only going to give you his best for you,
It's best.
for the good and for his glory,
Right.
you know, and you have hope that no matter what you face, it is going to turn out in your favor.
Right. And it's going to turn out according to his plan.
Yes. And he can't tell us that plan.
That's right.
Because people like me, I will take the whole plan and be like, I can't do all that. What are you talking about? So yeah, you can
Well, it's a good thing, right?
which sometimes I get frustrated. I'm like, I really wish that I knew more about where this is going. And like, do you though? Do you? Like, no. I really don't want to know where this is going, because if I do, I'm probably not going to go there. And then you're going to have to like trap me in the belly of a fish or something to get me.
And you know, we just have to trust the process.
Yes.
Yeah, so you just have to trust the process. So you're the author of Pray While You're Pray.
Yes.
Let's speak to that. And you said this is a testament to your journey.
Yes.
Oh.
Pray While You Pray is a book that I wrote in the early 2000s, a couple of years after my divorce. I got married when I was 21. My marriage lasted for 20 months, so not very long. Fortunately for me, I was in law school, so I was able to do my own divorce proceedings and settlement and paperwork and all of that.
Wow.
And, you know, my whole entire life, like that was, the goals were be a wife, be a mom, be a lawyer. Like those, I was like laser focused on those things. Right. And so when I saw that my marriage was falling apart, it was like, what am I going to do now? Because I didn't have a boyfriend until I was 17. My ex-husband was my second boyfriend, like my second serious relationship.
Okay.
And in my mind, and I know this sounds like crazy, trust me, I know how crazy this sounds, but in my mind at 21, I felt like if I did not marry him, that I would never have the opportunity to marry anyone ever again in my life. So I felt like I needed to get married then.
Okay.
My mom got married at 18. My sister got married at 19. So like, I felt like I was old at 21. Wow. Like I felt like a spinster at that point. Little did I know, but anyway. Yeah, so I got married way too young, way too fast, and got divorced. And then like immediately after divorce, like dove headfirst back into the dating world, because I was like just anxious to get a husband. Like I needed a husband and I needed to be a wife. And what I had done was I had made an idol out of a husband and being married and having a family.
Okay.
And so I went through a period of time back then. I was going through like a quarter life crisis, where I realized halfway through law school I did not want to be an attorney. And then I was divorced halfway through law school, and I was like, okay, so literally every dream that I've ever had is like falling apart right in front of my eyes. So when I graduated from law school, I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do the rest of my life because I have literally geared my whole entire life, my education, all of my path has been towards like these purposes and these purposes alone. And now they are not true for me. So I don't know what to do. And I went through this like quarter life crisis. And I was like, Lord, I don't like what do you want from me? Like what am I supposed to do? Like I don't even know who I
What's
am
your
anymore.
plan?
Like what are we gonna do with this? Like, kind of a mess. Okay. So in that time period, I did a lot of praying. I did a lot of reading the scriptures. I rejoined like my home church back here in Jacksonville.
Oh,
Was under the teaching of my current pastor, who is really good at expository preaching and breaking down the word. Went to Bible study. And what I realized was, I got saved when I was 6 years old. So,
okay.
and I knew what I was doing. I always have to explain that to people because they're like, 6. I'm like, I knew what I was doing. Like, I knew who the Lord was. I knew that I loved the Lord. I knew where I wanted to spend eternity. I knew that I wanted to be His. So, yes, I got saved at 6. Some
Okay.
people made me question it when I was like 11. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll say the words again, but I'm pretty sure I'm already saved. So, so had that relationship like all through my youth and my teenage years. And then, boys got involved. And my mind went a little astray for a hot minute. And
Right.
so in that time where I wasn't really dating anybody and I had time to get some clarity, I started journaling out prayers and just talking to God about like where my life was at that point and what my hopes and dreams were, and writing down scriptures that were really helpful to me at that time. As it pertained to being a wife, the scripture that was the most helpful to me at the time was Proverbs 18:22, which says that he who finds a wife
Find a good
finds a good
thing.
thing.
That's right. And
Because
with
that, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
no, you're fine. You're totally fine. I mean, like you're inside my head. So I was going to mention that. So with that being said, what is a woman's place in that search? Should she just sit and wait, or should she position herself to be found?
So that is an excellent question. And as I'm sitting here talking today, and I'm 46, and my last meaningful relationship was 16 years ago, I definitely am not qualified to give anyone dating advice.
Right, but just your
But
personal opinion.
according to the word and according to what I have studied and what I have read, here is my interpretation of
That's
dating.
it, your opinion.
Okay. Right. Men are pursuers.
Absolutely.
They like a challenge
Mhm.
and a chase. That does not mean that they like games, okay? Because some people take that like, oh, I need to be like coy and I need to like wait 3 days before I text someone back and like follow all these very specific rules. Not that,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
My normal pattern was, I'll just like contrast my normal pattern prior to that verse, like sinking deeply into my heart and hitting me like a ton of bricks, was a guy would show interest in me.
Mhm.
And the minute he showed interest in me, I made him do no more work. And I was like, all right, so let's go on this date and let's go here and let's do this. Do you want to come over? I'll cook you dinner. And I was like playing the wifey role instead of just being like a girlfriend and allowing him to set the tone and
Right.
allowing him to be the lead. And I was taking over and it was emasculating. As I'm talking about, I'm kind of disgusting myself, but that was the old me and this is the new me. And it's fine. Like,
I think we've all been there, okay?
like, it would be like if they showed me just like a sliver of interest, it was
Mhm.
like, cool, it's time for me to take over and push this in the direction in which I want this to go.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, the person who I am now, especially having been single for as long as I have and having been independent
Mhm.
for as long as I have, I just explained this to someone yesterday. I need someone who's going to take the lead and who is going to show me
Mhm.
how interested they are in me.
Absolutely.
And I will reciprocate that, but I will meet them
There
at
you
the level that they're at,
go. Mhm.
right? I will meet you at your level of interest. There's a lot of controversy out there that's like, I've read all kinds of like blogs and like comments on social media where girls are like, do guys like it when girls take the first step? And I'm going to be honest, I'm like, I'm really traditional and I'm also introverted, like really, really introverted.
Are
So,
you?
yes, yes. And believe it or not, like shy. Like because I'm an entertainer and an educator, like I'm a storyteller and I can emote, but like in my everyday, regular, personal life, I enjoy like solitude. And if I'm around too many people, I have to very much recharge. I get overstimulated.
Absolutely. That's me.
I'm very, very restrained, especially in social settings where I don't really know people. I hold back a lot. I sit back and I observe. And then when I start to feel comfortable, that's when I start coming out of my shell. So a lot of people see me in situations where I feel comfortable. Like I feel comfortable talking to you. I feel
Right.
comfortable like being on stage and they're like, there's no way you're an introvert. And I'm like, no, you're like if I'm passionate about something, I will talk your head off all day long about it.
Absolutely.
But if I don't know you and I don't know the situation, it's something that I'm uncomfortable in. It makes me anxious and I tend to be more restrained. So I'm kind of like shy and it takes a minute for me to get out of my shell. So that being said, like just, it would me like just going up to someone and being like, hey, I don't even know. I don't even know how to go. Like I'm so out of practice with flirting. Like, how does that even work? I don't even know. But then I also hear from guys where guys are like, well, the way that times are now with like the Me Too movement and like with, like so many independent women and, and I'm not saying necessarily that this is me, but they see a woman who like has her stuff together and is attractive and, you know, really doesn't need them. And they like automatically assume A, that she's taken or B, that she's going to reject them. And so they don't even try.
That's true. That's so true.
And so it's like you gotta like find that balance. So I will say, like the last date that I went on, which was also a very long time ago, but the person that I went on the date with, I did like catch his eye, but I did not walk over to him. Like I caught his eye. I did my little like, glance and smile thing to be like, okay, it's safe for you to come over here. And he did. I was like, I'm not coming to you. I'm not coming to you. You
Okay.
come over here.
Uh-huh.
Like I hear a lot of guys talking about how they don't want to be rejected. Like we don't want to be rejected either.
Exactly. Right.
So somebody's got to like make the first move. And men were created to be the leader.
That's right.
Right. So at this stage in my life, like I need someone who's gonna like compliment me, like compliment with an E, like not like compliment with an I. Like
Huh? Uh-huh.
I can compliment myself.
Absolutely.
If I need, like, I know how to like boost myself up. I
Uh-huh.
don't have enough friends and family around me that can boost myself up. I'm not saying I don't ever need words of affirmation, but I'm just saying like I'm not like coming up to me with just like, oh, like you're so pretty. I'm just like, thank you. And in my
Um,
head, I'm like, I know.
I love pretty. I mean, not that you can see it, but of course,
Like I need you to like I don't know. I feel like it's easy. It's not easier. I feel like it's better to allow the guy the chance to really come at you correct.
that's right.
I feel like when we go to them, we like give them too much information. And I feel like they
And
should have the chance to come at us correct and like really catch us off guard and like knock us like that is what I'm waiting for. And and when I say waiting, let me talk about that part of it.
mhm,
Okay. because look, I have a whole EP that's based on the verse, "They that wait on the Lord," okay? Right? Shall renew their strength. All right. I believe in waiting on the Lord, but people have the wrong perception of what it means to wait.
Right.
Waiting is not sitting in my recliner every day hoping that like the person who delivers my Amazon Prime is going to be the man for me. Like that is not like waiting is not just like sitting around in your house every day, just like, Lord, please let today be the day. Like waiting, you have to think of it like, and I didn't make up this analogy, but you have to think of it when you go out to a restaurant, the person that we call a waiter,
Right.
what's they doing?
Mm-hmm.
They're serving.
Serving, yes. Mm-hmm.
They're busy. They're working.
There you go.
Right. Mm-hmm. So waiting is not just like sitting at waiting is in the sense of I'm not going to move ahead of God on this. I'm not going to be like, okay, God, you're taking too long and I'm taking over. Mm-hmm. And then I end up settling for someone that is not God's best for me. And then I end up in a life cycle of trying to make it work. Believe me when I tell you, that has been like all of the meaningful relationships that I've had in my life is trying to make something work because I got tired physically waiting for a man to come in my life. And so instead of following what God said, I tried to make the man happy instead of living my life to please God.
That's right.
So waiting on God is serving God, serving his people, figuring out who you are,
there you go.
Yourself, figure out what you like. So that when someone comes to you, you're not going, do I like that or do I not? Like you already know. Yeah. Like, so you know if they're stepping to you correct. Like you know when they approach you, like this is okay. This falls in line with the type of person that is going to complement who I am as a person. We don't need a carbon copy of ourselves. We need, God made man and then he made woman as the helpmate. Mm-hmm. We need to fit together where you're strong is a place where I'm weak. Where I'm strong is a place where you weak. I love my parents' relationship. Like my dad doesn't necessarily care to like deal with all the like balancing the checkbook and stuff like that at the house. My mom was like, you make the money, I'll manage the money.
There you go. Team effort.
that was their trade-off.
That's right. That's right. And that's what you would want, right? You would want a partner.
A partner.
You want a partner. You want someone you can grow with, build. And I tell people, like, in your single season, use it as a time of self-reflection. Mm-hmm. Spend time with God, just get to know you. Yes. And you made a good point. Like, know what you like and what you don't like. And that's just a time to prepare yourself for your husband. Mm-hmm. Don't look at it as a burden. It's a blessing.
It is. It is. But don't get me wrong. Some days are really hard.
It is. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying
it is. Things can be, it is a blessing in the sense that I know the other side of it. Right. I know what it's like to be in a relationship and still feel alone.
Right.
And I don't ever want to do that again. Right. So I know the other side of it, which shows me how much of a blessing it is to like, I would rather be actually alone in the presence of God and the person I love the most. And have the freedom to do a lot of things. Like sometimes I'm like, I look back over my life and I'm like, would I have been able to travel to some of the places that I've traveled? Would I have been able to go on the mission trips that I went on? Would I have been able to do the things that I've done with music if I had stayed married or met someone when I was younger? And, I just don't know, until we get to that part of my story. Like, I don't know why the wait has been for this length of time, but I do know God knows why. And I do believe that he's preparing me to be the best version that I can be until I meet that partner in purpose and we level up together.
Absolutely.
At a different level. Because I definitely want someone who's going to challenge me to be a better me.
There you go.
I don't want somebody that's like, oh my God, you're perfect just the way you are. I will walk all over you.
Because you want that, right? You want someone to, just encourage you to do better.
Right.
Someone
And
that's
I'm not saying like I want somebody to like beat me down, like you're not all that. And you can obviously not that. Like I'm not like sadomasochistic or anything. I don't want anybody to like berate me or beat me down. But I do want, it's kind of like I mentioned with my therapist earlier. Like I want somebody who's not going to let me get away with stuff for fear of like they're gonna hurt my feelings. I want somebody who can say, like, for example, if I'm having one of those moments where I'm really anxious and I'm in a thought spiral, I want somebody who can say to me, hey, you need to come back to right now and you need to start thinking positively because this is going to work out. Like, I need that,
There you go.
you know? And so to an extent, I can do that for myself. But I need somebody like, I need somebody who's going to meet me where I am, put your arms around me and hug me. My love language is physical touch. Okay. Talk to me nicely, but firmly. Like, listen, I understand that you're in your feels right now. And your feelings are valid and you're allowed to feel your feelings. But I also want to remind you who our God is.
That's right.
And I want you to, I need like, I need that. It's hard doing that for myself.
Right.
I thank God that I have a community around me who does that for me when I allow them the opportunity to do that for me. But yeah, someone asked me that they're like, so what do you do like when you're in those moments where you're like, I'm single and this is not the life I envisioned? And like, what do you do with that? And I'm like, well, first I cry because I'm sad. Like you're allowed to be sad. I said this earlier. I didn't let myself be sad about it.
Yeah.
A long period of time. You're allowed to be sad and you're allowed to feel your feelings. Don't stay there.
Absolutely.
Don't stay in the sad. Get back up.
That's right.
Up. Right. Okay, like I'm sad about this. Read some Psalms. Because a lot of Psalms start off with David being like, Lord, I'm going through, I'm suffering, they're trying to kill me. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like that's how the Psalms start. And then they end with, but I'm gonna praise you. And I know you're gonna work it out because you are God and you are sovereign and everything's possible with you. Like it's like it starts out and it's like really depressing. And then it hits that transition moment. And it's like, I'm going to take note of who you are. And I'm going to remember who you are. And I'm going to remember who I am in you.
That's right.
That I can do this and that I can still live my life. And I can still, there was a period of time that I stopped living my life. And I speak because I don't want anybody going through what I went through.
Right.
I stopped living my life because it didn't look like what I wanted it to look like. And it just became this like monotonous routine of like, I get up, go to work, come home, get up, go to work, come home, get up, go to work, come home, go to church on Sunday, come home. Like, and I just it was almost like in protest, like if you're not going to give me what I want, then I'm not going to do anything else. I wasn't making anyone miserable but myself. So, waiting is not just
sitting and actually just waiting. You have to prepare.
Yes. Waiting time is never wasted time unless you waste that time.
That's a very good point. Very profound. So, how important is it for you to have someone that share your same faith?
It's a non-negotiable. Okay. When I was in my 20s, I had a list of 50 things that my husband needed to be like, write them all out. Okay. I need these 50 things. They were very specific. Okay. After getting divorced, that list got shorter, but still like very specific.
Right.
And even in my book, Pray While You Pray, like I list out like these are things that I want in a man. And that was me like in my late 20s. And not a whole lot of them have changed. But what I realized now in my 40s is that there are non-negotiables and there are preferences.
There you go.
Okay.
Mhm.
My non-negotiable number one, and really like the most important, is you must be saved, sanctified, set apart, and filled with the Holy Spirit. And there must be some fruit
Okay.
of that in your life.
Okay.
Because I met my ex-husband in church. So you showing up at church is telling me nothing, not
That's
a thing.
true.
Okay. There are wolves in sheep's clothing that go to church every single Sunday.
You can tell a tree by the fruit it bears.
Right.
Mhm.
So I need to see some proof
There you go.
that Jesus lives inside of you. Like, not just because you told me. I really, like, funny story. I've been like on and off of apps, and I've been off for years now because they creep me out. But one time when I was on the apps, this guy and I were messaging back and forth. And so I was like, oh, like, he's cute. And, so I asked him, I was like, "Hey, are you saved?" Like,
Mhm.
that's, I just come out and ask people, like, are you saved? And
Right.
like, yeah, I'm saved. And I was like, oh, what church do you attend? And he was like, I attend the Potter's Dome. And I was like, what's that now? Okay, so there's two, like, really big, at the time, there's two really big churches in Jacksonville, Potter's House and
Mhm.
Potter's Dome. I was like, pick one lie, buddy. Pick one lie and stick to it. Like, and I was like, well, that's the end of that, because you don't even know what church you allegedly attend. Okay. And like I said,
Right.
church attendance isn't a full indicator, but it's a start.
Good start.
It's a start. Now, rather than just asking, like, are you saved? And like, how would you describe your relationship with Jesus? How does that show up in your everyday life?
Mhm. Mhm.
And like, what do how are you led by the Holy Spirit on a
Right.
daily basis? What does your prayer life look like?
Okay.
Those types of things.
Mhm.
Don't just fall for, oh, he wanted to take me on a Bible study day. Like,
Right.
can do that. Like,
Mhm.
anybody who reads anything, like, if you Google my name, like, it's gonna come up there. Like, everybody's gonna know that I'm a Christian. So I already know that, like, anybody who even would try to talk to me, like, that would be an angle that they would take. Like, I've heard people say, like, don't even bring it up, like, on the first date, because you need to, like, let them bring it up and see where they are first.
Right.
But I'm like, if they do any level of research, like even the most cursory level of research on me before we go out, they're already gonna know, like, it's out there.
Mhm.
So, but we just have to dive a little bit deeper than, does he go to church, and did he want to take the Bible study with him, or did he want to take me on a Bible study picnic? Like, anybody can go to the Bible bookstore and pick up a Bible that day with their picnic
That's true.
basket and take you out to, but are they gonna be like, I thought there's like this viral sound of Ocho Cinco saying that he knows the Bible from cover to cover, and then he can't even name, like, the first or the last book of the Bible. Okay.
Right.
So, like, there's gotta be fruit. That is number one, like, non-negotiable. Can't do without it. That's how important it is to me. Like,
Very
it's a
important.
non-starter. Like, please don't come at me with, I'm spiritual, not religious. Bye. If you believe in crystals and sage and fate and horoscopes, you
Mhm.
there's a whole bunch of other girlies out there for you, and I'm not the one.
That's right.
I'm
And it's
not.
okay.
And that, hey, do you?
That's right. That's right. Oh my gosh. I'm thoroughly enjoying speaking with you. I can actually go on with a part two. You're just so full of life and so positive, Kind of hard to find that. And to think this is our first time really meeting,
Yeah.
other than emailing. So
Right.
it's truly, truly a blessing. I've been on your
It's
YouTube.
a God connection.
Yes, definitely a God connection. I've listened to your music and this one song, you wearing the shirt, Strength to Soar. It resonated in my spirit. And it's probably because, well, I know it's because it hit home for me. Oh my goodness. Your song had me in a chokehold.
Oh.
If you don't mind, I would love for you to sing it.
Okay. I'm gonna do it a cappella because I don't
Okay.
have like the fancy equipment to do the music right now.
That's, your voice is amazing.
All right. Why do I complain as if you don't care and act like you're not always here? You don't run and hide. You've seen every obstacle I'll face. You're the compass that helps me navigate. So I'll wait and I'll place my trust in you, in you. You help me stand with stability. Walk and I get weary. Run with a faith restored and energy to endure. You give me strength to soar. You give me strength to soar.
Thank you. That's a beautiful song. What's the inspiration behind that song?
So, I talked earlier about my grandfather passing about
Mhm.
a year after he passed away. I had just been in like at that point I was depressed. Like
Mhm.
at the time in it, I didn't realize I was depressed, but that was one of those periods of my life where with COVID, the pandemic, with him passing, with all that was going on, uncertainty and stuff, I just was really down. I was really in my head and I was really like paralyzed and just I wouldn't leave the house. I wasn't doing anything. And so then the following year, I was like, you know what, I gotta, I have to snap out of this. I have to start getting back to doing the things that I love. And I had heard about this book called Writing Worship. And so I got that book as a birthday present for myself and
Okay.
started reading it. I wanted to get back to songwriting.
Mhm.
Um, I had been doing songwriting, but I was like writing with other people and for other people. I hadn't really written anything from my heart for a while. I hadn't really written like any worship music.
Right.
And so one of the exercises in that book was to take a passage of scripture and just kind of like map out a song from that passage of scripture. And in that period of my life, I literally was solely relying on God's strength. Like I had no strength of my own. Like
Mm.
I felt extremely low. There were times when I didn't want to go on with life.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so Isaiah 40 and 31, that was the verse that was like spoken into my spirit as I was reading that. So I looked at that verse and I was like, strength to soar. Like, and I couldn't even imagine like getting there. Like, how do I even get up? Like, the strength to soar on wings like eagles. And the thing that I noticed about that verse was like, God didn't say, they that wait on the Lord will have renewed strength and they'll soar like eagles.
Mhm.
There were steps to that thing.
That's right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yes.
they
Yes.
will run and not be weary. They will walk and never fail. This is like steps. Like, I kept trying to pull myself all the way back up.
Mhm.
And sometimes I was trying to pull myself all the way back up in my own strength
Yes.
and not relying on God's strength. So one of the things that our pastors taught us is, and I've always really just focused on that verse and like the three verses before it, like 28 to 31. So I
Mhm.
actually went up and looked at the full book and I got to, I want to say it's verse 27. Hopefully I'm not misquoting that, but it was like, oh, Jacob, why are you complaining? And I was like, because at first I didn't read, oh, Jacob, why are you complaining? I read, oh, Toni, why are you complaining?
Mhm.
And that literally became the first line of the song. Like, why? do I complain like you don't care? Like God has proven to me over and over and over and over and over again how much he cares about me.
That's right.
And I still am whining and complaining like he doesn't care.
Mhm.
And I got frustrated with myself, and I get frustrated with myself all the time. But that's really where that song started. And then just, going through the different verses, and, the bottom line of that pre-chorus is like, we have to wait on God.
Right.
Like we said earlier, waiting is not just like a passive, I'm just going to sit back and be like, do your thing, Jesus. Like, waiting is, I'm going to like soak in you. I'm going to absorb your presence. I'm going to like be as close to you as I possibly can.
Right.
So that I can hear you speaking to me, so that I can tell you what that next step is that I need to take, even if it is just that, even if it is just a step. Like, you don't have me taking off and running yet, but you have me stepping in the right direction. But I have to be close enough to him to do that. And then sometimes the step that he tells you to take, I'm like, you sure? Because I don't really know.
That's the process.
I don't. That me? You want me to do that? No, like I put my trust in you, God. Like I
Right.
place all my trust in you. And so I wrote the song really as an exercise for me. It's kind of like with the book. I wrote Pray While You Pray just as an exercise for me. I shared it with some other people, and they were like, you have to publish this as a book.
Absolutely.
Same kind of thing happened with Strength to Soar. I wrote it for me. I sent it to my friend who's a producer. I was like, will you create a track for this for me? Because I want to sing it in church. And that was my only intention, was just to share it in a safe place.
Right.
With my congregation at church, who, they love just about everything I do. And, and I don't have to worry. But when I sang it in church that first time, which is a couple months later, the feeling that I felt while I was singing. A lot of times when I'm singing, I'm there, but I'm not there. Like, I'm there, but I'm singing to God. So I'm not like really focusing on the people. And that was one of those times where I was like, Strength to Soar is really me crying out to God, but also trying to give myself and other people hope.
Yes. And it's encouraging.
Oh, thank you. Because that is
so encouraging. I'm like, God, this song. And it's just like, it just took me to a different place, because that was me. That was me. So yes, I love that song.
You're gonna make me cry, and I'm not gonna do it.
Don't cry. Don't cry. But I'm just so
Literally is why
grateful.
I released it. Because I felt that back from the congregation that day, like that at that point in time, which was like April of 2021, when we had all been through like just a year of crazy.
Right. Right.
That people needed it. And I, for the longest time, said that I was never going to be the artist, and I was not going to be out in front of the people. And I was content to be behind the scenes, writing the songs, and, and pumping up my friends who were releasing them. But that is why, because in that moment when I sang that for my congregation, like I felt back from them, like they needed that, I needed that, and other people needed that. And it was like, you can't hold that back from people who need it.
I definitely need it, because when I lost my mom, I didn't see a way. I've always said, I don't know what I would do if I lose my mom. And God said, you know what? You're going to live. You're going to pick yourself back up, and that's what she will want you to do. And when I heard that song, nobody knows like how hard it was to pull myself out of such a dark place. And I couldn't have done that by myself. It was nobody but God, because I didn't have the strength to do it. So yes, that song blessed my soul. And thank you, thank you, thank you. It's definitely I'm just glad you responded and you reached out, and we are now here. And there are some things I am working on. Like I want to do some speaking engagements and things of that nature that I may reach out to you for. See if you want to join, partner with me.
Awesome.
I
Yeah.
love the spirit. You're positive. I'm all about positive vibes. And it's you. So for my listeners, where can they find your music?
My music is on every streaming platform that you can possibly think of. From Spotify, Apple Music, Pandora, Amazon. It's also on a site called Bandcamp. That's where you can actually purchase it and download it directly so that you can like listen to it over and over again as much as you want without ads. And you can find links to any of those places on my website, which is ToniLaShaunMusic.com, ToniLashaun music.com.
And I'll add the links once I post the video as well. And your book.
Yes.
Where can they find your book?
Pray While You Pray is on Amazon. There's also a devotional book that goes with it, a devotional book and journal, Pray While You Pray Devotions, which is 52 devotions that I wrote probably around 10 years after I wrote the book when I was in another rough patch as a singleton. And I was like, let's start the process over again. I'm going to look for some scriptures to help me and some prayers. And so both of those are available on Amazon. The devotions, most of them are also in the YouVersion Bible app. And there is also a devotion that goes with each one of the songs on my EP that's in YouVersion Bible app. So if you search my name, Toni Wortherly or Toni LaShaun, you can find all of the devotions that I've written that are in the Bible app.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, Toni. And I can continue talking all night, but it's definitely been a joy. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule to talk to me. It means so much.
Thank you. Thank you
There's
for
anything I can do.
I do not take it lightly. Anytime someone gives me an opportunity, like I said, mentioned earlier, God connection, God has really been moving in this season of my life to give me the opportunity to share my story. And just my whole mission is just shining his light and sharing his love because it's so needed in this world.
Absolutely. So very true. Well, I would like to leave my motto with my listeners. When you see the need, plant the seed.
Amen.
Okay. And we'll be in touch.
All right.
Thank you, Toni.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
All right. You too.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.